Good evening, people of YouTube. We are live from Inspire Academy tonight, and it is our free webinar called iPad Pedagogy of Play. I am Roddy Graham, lead teacher of Inspire Academy, and it is a delight to welcome you along to this free session tonight. You'll be very glad to know that I am merely in the facilitator role this evening, because the main attraction of the evening is the wonderful Kirsty Banks, who is the author of our iPad Pedagogy of Play book. Kirsty, how are you this evening?
Good, thanks. Yeah, ready to go.
Brilliant. Great stuff. So we are going to be delivering this session. It'll probably take about an hour, I would imagine. We're going to go through lots of different tips for you in the early years on how to use your iPad well, using the play pedagogy as well. And we are looking for you to use tonight's hashtag, which is hashtag Inspire Early Years. So if you want to do any posts on social media, please use that. You've also got the opportunity to download the book. Just search for iPad Pedagogy of Play from Apple Books, and you'll get a copy of your very own. If you are on the YouTube link as well, then you can post a comment in the live chat, and we'll be able to share those with you as we go through. So make sure you're logged into a YouTube account. Send us some comments. Let us know where in the world you're watching from and your comments. And then if you have any questions as well, you can let us know that too. So just before we start with Kirsty's wonderful presentation, I'm going to share with you some information about Inspire Learning if you don't know what it is already. So Inspire Learning is Scottish Borders Council's digital transformation programme, which sees around about 15,000 iPad devices across the authority. We are one-to-one for all teachers, support staff, and ELC staff throughout the authority, as well as all primary 4 to S6 pupils. Primary 1 to 3 pupils get on a 1-to-5 ratio, and early years get a little use of them as well, maybe on a timetable system, or some that are dropped off with practitioners too. There are around 40 apps that are available on our self-service platform, so we don't have access to the full app store on the Apple devices. We manage these ones. We know exactly which ones that we want to be there to enhance, improve, and support teaching and learning, right the way through from early years all the way through to senior phase in high school. It covers a really wide geography as well. We've got 58 primary schools and 9 secondary schools over a vast geographical area. It takes around about 2 hours to go from the furthest east to furthest west school. So it's quite a geography that we cover here in the Scottish Borders. We use a platform called Schoolhouse, which is through Microsoft Teams for regular CPD opportunities. So we often deliver sessions like this one tonight there, but we might also have live lessons as well, or various other video conferences that we have to make sure that our staff are fully aware of how best to use their devices. And we share a lot of our work and our learning on Twitter, or X as it now is, through our and through our account Inspire SBC. So if you haven't already followed us there, please do so. In terms of the roadmap journey, we started in 2019 with secondary teachers and pupils being given their one-to-one devices. Primary teachers and upper primary pupils were given theirs during the first lockdown. I received mine at home, which was lovely. Be surprised on a cold May morning it was. Primary 4 and 5 pupils got theirs when we returned from that first lockdown in the summer. And then our shared devices went out to primary 1 to 3 pupils soon after. And then in 2022, all of our ELC and early years staff were given their one-to-one device. So that sets the scene for where Inspire Learning is, what it is, and why we are in the position that we're now in. And I'm going to hand over to Kirsty for the remainder of tonight's session to share all about iPad Pedagogy of Play. If you do, as I was saying, have any questions or comments that you want to leave, please pop them into the live chat. We will post them up on screen for you. We'll ask Kirsty or myself them as we go on as well. But I am going to disappear, and I'm going to hand over to Kirsty for the rest of the session.
Thank you, Roddy. Fab. So Roddy left you at early as practitioners. They got their iPads, and soon after that, I was employed to work with those practitioners in using their iPads and digital technology in general to support teaching and learning in a nursery setting. So my role is early years Inspire cluster support. I've been responsible for creating a vision for the use of digital technology and iPads in our early level settings, and providing online training and in-person training, in-person support generally as well for practitioners in our settings, and a whole lot more. I'm just going to start talking to you first about our vision that we came up with, how it fits with iPads in Play Pedagogy, and then I'll talk you through the iPad Pedagogy of Play document itself. So our vision we developed centers on how we wanted to use iPads and digital technology in our settings. We had to think about what we wanted to see. So essentially what that was for digital technology to be confidently used as a tool in early years settings to improve outcomes for learners. For practitioners, that's kind of got two arms to it. For our practitioners, our aim is to increase confidence levels, efficiency, and collaboration, and supporting practitioners basically with their own paperwork and workload. Because if we can make practitioners' lives easier and their jobs more efficient, we can spend it more time on the floor with our little people. And for the children's side of that is for iPads to be used as an open-ended tool, appropriately, creatively with the children, ensuring that we keep early years pedagogy and play pedagogy central to this. So when it came to iPads, we had to decide, how do we want the children to use our iPads in our nurseries, and what kind of use do we want to see in our nurseries? I'm just going to quickly, sorry, that was my bit about I forgot to show these. So that's just going back to our practitioners, the bit about confidence, efficiency, and collaboration, and for our children, using it as a tool, and mainly for it to be meaningful and appropriate. So when it came to deciding what that vision looked like in practice and on the floor, we wanted to develop some principles to guide us. So we did a bit of research into how other authorities are using their digital technology. We did some research and reading on articles, research articles, and Scottish early level guidance principally as well. And we've developed these principles, and I'll just show you them now. They can also be found at the back of the iPad Pedagogy of Play document itself. So if you look at the slide now, we've separated it into a couple of different sides. So you've got the red side with the cross and the green side with the tick. The green side with the tick, those images have been taken from Realising the Ambition. And I'm going to start talking about the red side. So what we don't want for our iPads in our nurseries is for iPads to be the sole focus. We don't want them to be where the learning happens principally, because we all know that in early years it's such a vital time for development in cognitively, but also physically, physiologically. So we have to provide that range of experience in our early level settings. So iPads can't be the sole focus, but what they can do really effectively, if used effectively, they can enhance what we already do. So we can look for things that experiences that the children wouldn't have without that technology. We're kind of going away from a focus on games. We don't want to focus on games mainly for a number of reasons, but games come with a few challenges, I suppose. For a start, they're not open-ended. They, in nursery and early years and in play pedagogy, we want to enhance that creativity and the curiosity of children. Loose parts, for example, is a great example of how we can support children with that. So games aren't open-ended, so they don't tick that box. They don't really support children's intrinsic motivation to learn. They've got rewards, they've got levels, and it's kind of a bit like stickers. They reward children, was actually we want to go with that natural hunger to learn that children have and their curiosity, and it doesn't really fuel that. And also with games, the children are doing what the game makers want them to do. They're being controlled by the game makers. They're not making those choices themselves. So I think games needs to be considered carefully. Certainly not a focus on games. If there is games and you think, I think this game, online game, would be really valuable, I think consider the green side and how many of those it ticks. If you've got like a game on an iPad, it's supporting executive function on the green side there, because it's deepening their learning and they're allowing them to really to use skills in a different way. Is it supporting movement coordination, potentially fine motor, maybe a bit of communication and language? But if you take that if you take that digital game to a smart board, it suddenly brings so many more of these areas on the green side. So you've got a lot of movement and coordination because children have got to reach, they've got to crisscross their midline. There might be some more communication and language going on because the children are there with their friends, talking about it and helping each other. You've got that executive function, as I mentioned, and then the self and social development. That's a big tick because I imagine the children will be sitting and taking turns. So I think it's just being really careful and um, considering these different aspects. And this is kind of what we use as a framework. If there's a new app that comes along and we think, would this be ideal for early years? We consider these different aspects on our principles. They're kind of our guiding principles, really. So we've got these principles. We then had to think what they look like in practice and how we take that message out to early years practitioners and what that looks like on the floor. And actually, I'm saying early years practitioner, but essentially anywhere where play pedagogy and child-led learning is happening and taking place. So firstly, I'll say what we've said to everybody is however you use your iPad and you're choosing a tool or an app on the iPad, and to allow children to lead in their learning and be more independent in the use of an iPad, we would recommend that you enable guided access on your iPad. There is a demo video for guided access in the iPad Pedagogy of Play document. So you can watch it on there, or you can scan this QR code to watch it as well. What this does is that it keeps the iPad on one app, and children are unable to navigate away from it. So they can't, if they press the home button, it doesn't come out, and you can actually have it so they can't touch certain icons on the screen as well. It allows children to have that freedom with guidance, because obviously you're guiding them to stay within that app, but they can access that, lead in their learning, and engage with that tool as much or as little as they'd like to, and without the presence of an adult needing to be there as well all the time. And then to guide our thinking around how iPad apps can be planned for in a child-led environment, we were thinking about the practical aspects, and we looked at Education Scotland's Play Pedagogy Toolkit and their sketchnote, which is on the screen now. We kind of recommend planning for iPad use in your spaces and through your experiences and through your interactions. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit around that planning process now. So firstly, with your spaces, when you're planning your spaces, consider how you could integrate the iPad apps and tools into your spaces, into your basic and continuous provision. What's going to be there available for a lot of the year around. So I've just got a little diagram here, a little map of a nursery. And we've just got some ideas of the different apps that you could use in each of the areas. So for example, at the bottom, if you look, there's a magnifying glass. That's the magnifier app. It's a very simple app, but it could be used if you've got it in guided access, so it can't come off the magnifier app. You could have it with a range of other things in your investigation area. You might have, if you're investigating autumn leaves, you might have your autumn leaves magnifying glasses, because your magnifying app shouldn't replace your magnifying glasses. It should enhance what you've already got. So your magnifying glass, your magnifier app, you might have a book, you might have a pen and paper and a notepad or things like that. And a range of other things, but it should enhance what's already there. Same with the snack kitchen area. You might want to use the clock app, which has a timer, so you could use that for toothbrushing, and it's got a really great visual as well as the numbers counting down. It's got a good circle visual that comes on, so the children can see the passing of time through that circle as well as with the numbers. The mark making area, there's a great app that we use called Sketches School. Again, Sketches School would not replace Paint, because Paint has so many levels to it, scientifically, color mixing, smells, touch, and it's just a different experience. But it could go in your mark making area as part of your provision that you have there, as well as all your different types of pens and pencils and paper and things like that. In the construction area, I've got time lapse. That little sign's a time lapse. So you might want to set a time lapse feature up that the children can take a time lapse of them building a model or building a construction. um, they so they could take a time lapse, which speeds it up. So it makes 10 minutes, squeezes that into about 30-second video. That will enable them to reflect back on what they've built, and gives them something different to what they wouldn't have had without that iPad. In the book corner, we've got voice memos, which is like a dictaphone app, and you can use it for capturing sounds in the environment. Or in the book corner, you could actually read an audiobook into voice memos as a practitioner or as a teacher, and then the children could play that back as long as you've got guided access. Then they shouldn't get lost too much. And on the top right in the role play, you could use Clips, which is a video app. I haven't actually included Clips on the iPad Pedagogy of Play document, but we are looking to do a few more apps in the next year or so to add to that and complement it. So I'll move on. So that's your spaces. And I'm sure you will have had many, many more ideas about how you can enhance your spaces with apps. When you're planning for the experiences in your setting, just consider how you could use iPad tools to enhance the current provision that you're already planning for. So it might be that if you're doing a playing with sounds one, you might listen to some live loops on GarageBand. You might, if you're, I don't know, doing something on the local community, you could FaceTime somebody in the local community. You could FaceTime another nursery if they're a local nursery. Or you could use the markup feature on photos. If, let's say, if you're going on a shape walk, you could walk around, children could walk around taking photos of the shapes they see, and then spend time drawing around those on the photos, just to deepen that understanding of shape, the different features of shapes. So yes, having a think about that. And then hopefully, once you've done that planning for the spaces and you've used the apps a little bit more, and as time goes on in your responsive interactions with children, hopefully you'll get more confident with the apps and tools. You'll be able to use them more responsively and in the moment with children, and to support and extend learning where appropriate. They weren't supposed to disappear off the sides of the screen. They were supposed to do this. So these different aspects are covered in the iPad Pedagogy of Play document, which I'm going to move on to in a moment. When we've been looking at these, when we've been working with settings on our vision over the past few years, developing training and that in-person support, we did begin to notice that using iPads appropriately to support learning can feel quite overwhelming for some professionals. We realised that practitioners have so much going on in their role already, that we would have more impact if we followed a step-by-step approach that's simple and manageable and begins by using the simplest of iPad tools, which I've kind of covered a few already tonight. So then we had to think how we do that logistically, because we're a very small team, and this is a whole authority of settings that need support. So what we came up with, that we decided that we needed to create something that could be used independently by our settings and without that in-person support, because it might not always be available. So we created this written step-by-step guide, taking users through iPad use one tool at a time. And we hoped it would allow settings to integrate it independently and at their own pace. So the document, the approach that we came up with, and what the document takes you through, is it basically works on an app by app basis. So how it works is that each setting would take one app or one tool per month. It can be shorter than a month if you want. It can be 2 weeks or 6 weeks. You take one app a month, and you all decide on the app you're going to start with. Then you watch a very short demo video, which is included in the document, usually not longer than 5 minutes, the demo videos. Then you all do that planning together and think, right, how are we going to embed it into our spaces? Could we use, if you start with a clock, could we use that outside in the bikes? Stopwatch, maybe we could use that. Maybe we could use the timer for sharing. So you could have a think about in your spaces how you'll use it regularly. Then think about your planning. Is there anything we're planning for in the next kind of 2, 3, 4 weeks that we could use this app with? Or actually, we're doing an obstacle course. Wouldn't that be a good opportunity to use the stopwatch? So have a think about that. And then hopefully over the month, as you all support each other, again, there might be some more confident, some less confident. Hopefully help each other with the app, and you can ask, oh, how did you get to that bit again? Or how do you record that? By the end of the month, hopefully you'll have more confidence with that app or that tool, and be able to use it maybe in your responsive interactions with the children. And then after that month, you move on to a new app, a new tool, and go through the same process and the same planning process. And hopefully by the end of there's 6 different apps or tools in the document, and hopefully by the end of 6 months you have a team then who are more familiar. They can at least reel off 6 different things they could do with their iPads to support the children, and then just start using it more responsively. This approach can actually be used with any number of apps. So if you know about the apps and the tools that you have on your iPads, you can use them and use this approach with in your settings as well, in your wherever you are. I'm just going to pop on a little video just to give you a bit of a break from my voice, which is a little video of some of our children using iPads in settings. And then, in fact, maybe shall I talk to you after the document, or I'll play this video and then I'll talk you through the document. Great. Right, I'm just going to bring up the document. Can you see that?
No, I can't see the document. I've just got thanks for watching.
Oh, well, I stopped screen share.
You may need to share a different window. Whilst you're doing that, though, if anyone's got any comments to make, feel free to leave us a wee one in the live chat. Thank you, Miss Dodd, for saying this is amazing. I think she put that up when you were showing the sketch note of the environment, which is a great visual to consider for your setting if you are indeed using digital technology, or if you have any plans to get them as well. If you've got any questions, feel free to just pop them into the chat. We'll come to them at the end of tonight's session. And if you have any comments as well, pop them on, because we can ping them up for you. I think, watch this as well, Mrs. Banks, whilst you're there. See this? Yeah. This was something I learned the other night. If you do a love heart, look at that. Wow. Amazing. The power of technology.
Do I not get to?
You should be able to, yeah. Should work. Love heart. There's also other ones too. I might show you them at the end. Jen has left a wee one here saying, loving the links to RTA. Just remind anyone who doesn't know what RTA is, what that is.
Realising the Ambition. That's our Bible for early level pedagogy, play pedagogy in Scotland.
Brilliant. And Jem has left us a wee one too, saying that really like the way it's been broken down and that it's all making use of the native features and apps of the iPad. Yeah, a lot of the apps that are in Kirsty's wonderful book, they're not ones you have to pay for, and they're certainly not ones that you need to maybe download from the App Store. They are just part of the iPad as soon as it comes out of the box. So keep leaving us those comments as we go on, but I think I'm able to put Kirsty's slide on here so you can go through the book just now.
Fab. Great. I'm just going to, does this take me page by page? So this is the book. As Roddy said, you can get it if you search it on Apple Books on any device. If you search for iPad Pedagogy of Play, you can download that. It is available on PDF, and I have got a QR code at the end of this presentation, although I'm not sure it works. Right, so here we are. Here's the document itself. The beginning bit is a lot of what I've already talked to you about, so I won't spend too long on those, and I'll get to the main app of the month kind of pages that you can use. So this talks through how to use the guide, and what you'll see is basically is what we've already talked about. It's a step-by-step approach. It draws on the strength of a team. And at the bottom, what I've got is you'll see little quotes throughout the document that refer to our Scottish National Guidance about digital technology. And some of them are really, really valuable and I think important to keep central. This one, at all times, digital technology should reflect the distinctive nature of young children and how they learn. And I think it's really important to keep that central to all our iPad use. Contents page, self-explanatory. This talks about that vision we were talking about. So you've got that little image of the child and the practitioner, and basically what we're trying to do with our practitioners to increase that efficiency and confidence, and then with the children for it being a meaningful and appropriate use, and mainly used as a tool creatively. How we're doing it through iPads, I just talk about that a bit more and how there's a need to enhance what we already do, and for children to create rather than consume as well. That's quite a big phrase to keep in mind. And this is a great quote that I really I'm right there with. Is importantly, there is a need to constantly evaluate their purpose and be mindful that digital technologies are not dominant in a young child life, because there are, as we've said earlier, there are so many other things going on. But really, I do strongly believe, digital technology is here and it's here to stay, and it's really, we've got a duty to support children to use digital technology that they see in their world all around them all the time in an appropriate way, as to support themselves in life and in their learning as well. So I think we've got a wonderful opportunity to do that with this. Yeah. So, and the next one, that just talks about the planning that we talked about, just that in the spaces, experiences, and interactions, and how you can plan for the different apps in your areas and in your planning processes. And this talked about getting started. So there's maybe 4 or 5, I think, numbers. The first one, if you're getting started with using iPads, I would suggest that you sit down with the people who are in your setting. It might be you and one other, it might be a number of you, and you really consider your pedagogy around iPad use. And you think, what role do we want iPads for plays? Sorry, what role do we want iPads to play? Have a think about what the do's and don'ts are in your setting. What do we want to happen? What don't we want to see? And really have that meaningful discussion together to build that rationale, really, almost, for using them in your setting. You can be informed if you're not sure. You can be informed by the guidance out there. If you're in Scotland, the Scottish National Guidance of realising the ambition. How good is our early learning and childcare? Also, the Care Inspectorate Quality Framework, they've got bits on digital technology as well. So have a look at those and see what they say. If you're elsewhere in the world, then you can look at what your key national guidance says around that. On the Scottish Borders Council Early Level Portal, we've got a digital technology page, which has a lot on that. So if you scan that QR code, you can access that page as well. So do your reading and come up with a really firm rationale for using iPads. It says in the top right there, one of our quotes from How Good is Our Early Learning and Childcare? The setting has a clear rationale for developing children's skills in using and exploring digital technologies, including staying safe online. So it's very important that we do that and establish that. Number 2, introducing the iPads to the children. So introducing the iPads, talking about how we need to respect them, maybe involve the children by all means with all that discussion, and have a sit down and talk to them about what they think we should be, how they think we should be treating iPads. Sand, water, should we create any rules around them and let the children lead that discussion? Lots of questioning, and maybe even come up with some kind of risk assessment that you've all written together around that. You could, at this point, I would recommend buying cases for your iPads, just to give them that extra bit of robust nature, I suppose, and that the children will be able to hold them a lot better as well. So if they've got to scan a QR code at any point, or if they want to video things, they can really hold it, because obviously they've got little hands, and so it might be quite difficult for them to do that with the case you already have if you've got one. We, I was going to say something else around then. I can't remember what that was. No, it's gone. So then you can start by choosing your apps of the month. So choose your first app of the month. Decide as a team what you can start with the clock as it does in the book, or you can choose something that might fit with your intentional, your planning a little bit more. So choose the app, watch the demo together, support one another. There's some integration ideas on each block, on each sheet, so you can have a look at those and consider whether you might want to use some of those. And when you get to the end of the month, move on to the next app, and then just take that as it goes. And you might need more time, you might need less time, depending on how you feel as a setting. The next one, number 4, is what we talked about already. Just consider how you'll plan to integrate it through your interactions, experiences, and spaces. Number 5, model the app. So as with any other new tool, sit down at some point with the children. Doesn't have to be long. It could be at small gather time, maybe before lunch or something. You might just have a little chat about it. It might be in the moment with a few children, however you feel it works, but they'll need modeling, that modeling from an adult to understand the different features of it as well, so they don't end up just tapping all the buttons. Number 6, ensure guided access is enabled. That's what that demo video will do for you there. I think it's fundamental, as we've said before, in just ensuring the children get as much independence and autonomy with using their iPad as they can. And then at the end, number 7 is use the questions. So there's evaluative questions at the end, which is Appendix 1 at the end of the document, and they just get you to continually reflect whether it's the right thing to do. Is this the right tool to use in this moment? I've had a time where I was with a child and she was jumping off a wall, and I thought, oh, I'll see what she thinks about if I take a slow-mo of her doing that. So I took a slow-mo of her, because she kept doing it again and again, and I showed her, and she looked at it and went, huh, and then went off. And I thought, well, that's obviously not the right thing for her in that moment. She is not getting much out of that. She's still loving the jumping. It's all about the jumping. So she went back to the jumping. But I think it's an opportunity to offer it. And then if it's not there, then we move on to follow the child in terms of where they're taking that particular learning experience. So this section is the app of the month, or of the fortnight, whatever you want to call it. The first one, so there's 6 of them. Like I've said before, this is not an exhaustive list. You can do it with any app. I will do some more in the future, but this is what we've got in the document. So we start with the clock, and you'll notice they all look the same. These pages, they're all slightly different color. This one's got a grey tinge. The next one's got a green tinge and pink. The next one. At the top, you'll see there's a little quote from an Education Scotland document, or key guidance, Scottish guidance, that just talks about the learning involved with the app itself. So there's one at the top there about clocks and calendars and the passing of time and things like that. The next one talks about the features, so that will talk about the different features you'll find in the app. Just a summary. When on the PDF, this is actually a PDF version. If I tap on that, the video in the black box there, it will take me to YouTube, and I can watch the video on YouTube. If you download this as an Apple book, the video you'll be able to watch it within the actual document itself. I'm on a laptop at the moment, so I'm not able to do that. If you choose to print out this and have this page and have it in your setting, practitioners can scan the QR code to watch the demo video, and children could if they're interested in watching that as well. So you can access it in that way as well. And at the bottom, you'll see we've got some integration ideas. So that's just some of our ideas that our practitioners in our settings have come up with. Just things like I've already mentioned: toothbrushing, timer, turn taking, and we've popped some Scottish curriculum links in there on the left as well, just to help you with your planning processes. So if I go to the next one, we've got fast photos and markup. That's a tool on your photos that you can mark up a photo. Again, we've got some ideas there about like children going on a shape walk and maybe drawing around that. Mark making, some people have taken a photo of a picture frame and just allowed for it as a space to mark make with the tools. And the tools on the Photos app as well it's a toolbar, a markup tool that you can use in multiple different Apple apps. So once they're familiar with that one, they can use the markup tools in books, in Freeform and Keynote, and no, not Keynote and Pages, but certainly a Freeform and iBooks. I can't think of anything else, Roddy. You probably would think about other ones. Yeah, so that's quite a useful thing to use. And when they go up, especially in the borders with the iPads in the older years, they'll be really familiar with those tools as they go up. The next one we've got is voice memos. So I did mention that before. It's the dictaphone one where you can record sounds. Or create folders, because you can create folders in that app, and you can make folders of stories and songs and use the emojis. So we've done it where you know, if you've got "We wish you a Merry Christmas," you have a Christmas tree, and the children will then know if they tap the Christmas tree emoji, then they'll get that song. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you could do, if it did a reindeer, you could do a reindeer. Yeah, use of emojis in iPads is really beneficial for our children, because then they learn to associate that symbol with a particular experience. The next one is Sketches School. We mentioned that earlier as well, mark making app. And it's got symmetry option as well, and it's got a multiple, there's one line of symmetry, but there's 2 and 3, which can be quite good for snowflakes at this time of year. But it's got a lot of different tools on that, so the demo video talks you through that. The magnifier app, we mentioned that earlier. The features and the integration ideas are slightly less on there, so please let me know if you've got any more for those. I really love hearing from different nurseries and how everyone's using the different apps and the ideas they come up with in the moment and with the children, you know. Brilliant. And finally, photo booth. So photo booth's like a glorified mirror with different filters on it. When you first go into it, it's got 9 different filters. One's like a kaleidoscope effect. One looks like a heat camera. Another one's kind of all swirly. And again, like if you've got, it might be useful if you've got a kind of dressing up station, the children are looking at themselves and dressing up, they might want to use the different filters. And they can take photos of themselves as well. They can flip the camera around and look at their environment through the different filters as well. And with that one, and actually with voice notes, with voice memos and the photos, you can share them. So you can share it to, we use Shobi in Scottish Borders, so you can share it directly onto Shobi to share that with parents, or you can put it in an email and things like that. So that function's really fantastic as well. Just at the end, these are those evaluative questions. Just always considering, is this extending a child's observed area of interest, or maybe it supports collaboration, the children collaborating together? Does it support high quality interactions? There's lots of different questions to look at. And then on this last one is that the digital technologies principles that I was talking about earlier, and the different sides of that. And that's about it, with some curriculum for excellence links there with digital technology and the acknowledgements at the end. I'm just going to take that back to the beginning. So that's the document, basically in a nutshell. In terms of where we're going next with this, I've mentioned it a couple of times already, that we are going to, obviously this is 6 tools, we are going to go and do some pages for clips, for GarageBand, maps, and maybe some more as well. But feel free to try this technique out with any other apps that you have in your settings, in your iPad. We are going to work through this at the moment. We're working through it on social media, through our SBC early years accounts on Twitter and Facebook. You can follow along to share your own progress with it and learn from other people as well. The more people who post, the more we can learn from each other. If you're within Scottish Borders Council, we're working through these on the Schoolhouse channel as well, on Teams. And I'm also holding monthly drop-in sessions, community practice sessions, for people to share what they're doing and get ideas and ask questions about iPad use generally, or about the document. We would love to be able to learn from others on how you're all engaging with digital technology through play, and share our own experience too. So do get in touch if you want to have further discussions and meet a bit of networking around that. And finally, to download the document, you can, as we've said, you can go to an Apple Book, or I have got the only thing is the PDF's not working really. Can you see that, Roddy? No, you can't see that. I'll maybe lead that.
Can't see at the minute, no, but yeah, Apple Bookstore and just search for iPad Pedagogy of Play. It's the first result. I've tested it a number of times, so you shouldn't have to scroll down your search bar after you've looked for that. So iPad Pedagogy of Play will get you that on the Apple Bookstore. Kirsty, another thing that I know you've maybe briefly touched upon, early level portal.
Yes, that's a good point. The early level portal, Scottish Borders Council have got an early level portal, so you can actually obtain the PDF version of this and the link to the Apple Books on the early level portal. The early level portal is like a one-stop shop for early level, and it has key messages and ways we can do it for all these different areas of practice. So it's got key messages on observations, taking observations, on planning, on transitions, on emerging literacy, on maths and numeracy. Oh, there you go, Roddy. Thank you very much. It's got key messages. It's got ways that you can do it. Because, for example, with planning, it needs to show progress. It needs to be child-led at times, but people do it in different ways. So that's the different ways you can do it. So it's got those messages on there, and it's also got further reading, Scottish guidance, national guidance, and it's got all the links. You've got key documents on there as well. So it's a really huge wealth of resource, a really brilliant resource. So feel free to pop into that, and you can see the first thing that appears is iPad Pedagogy of Play on that banner that's going across as well. So you can get it from there as well.
Oh, this is a new edition, this banner. I've not seen this before. Look at that, iPad Pedagogy of Play. So you just click that and it downloads.
It takes you to a post where you can get the PDF or the Apple Book. Yeah.
There you go. Brilliant stuff. Excellent. Honestly, that is one of the best things that I've seen a local authority create, is that earlier, because you're on the call, Kirsty. But it's genuinely such a lot of information. Yes, it is made by Borders practitioners, so it has got a bit of a Borders context. But really, if you're working in an early years setting throughout Scotland, that is a useful site for you, and even beyond Scotland as well. Have a little look at that. It's a wonderful platform for nursery and early primary level work. And if you just use Play Pedagogy in any way, shape, or form as well. If anyone has got, is that the end of your presentation? Can I just say, Kirsty?
I'm done.
Well, I thought you were. I just thought I'd check.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
If anyone does have any questions, please pop them into the chat. I've got a wee kind of Q&A session for the last few minutes. So if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them on, and we'll gladly take those from you. As Kirsty said a number of times, Apple Books to get the book. It's iPad Pedagogy of Play, or you can get it on the early level portal as well. Miss Dodd is asking for a link for the early level portal. What I'll do just now is I'll stick it into the chat for you so that you've got a copy of it. So that should be winging its way to you just now. It's blogs.glowscotland.org.uk/SB/early level portal. So you can click on that, and hopefully you'll be able to get that link for you as well.
You can Google it as well. It comes up first on the Google.
Yeah, I think if you do early level portal SBC, it comes up first on there as well. And you also get the wee video as well, where you can find out all about it. We've got some questions coming in, so we'll ask those for you just now. Kirsty, if you're okay with that, I'll just pop this one back on the screen. So we've not got the early level portal. Gemma is asking, are there any other devices available in your settings?
In terms of, at the moment, we've got iPad devices. We haven't, Apple devices, we haven't got any other devices, and we've got other types of digital technology like smart boards and bbots and other bits and bobs, but no, that's the main. But that's the main.
There's laptops as well. So the council have laptops for teachers and for early years leads as well. So they do have Windows laptops as well. So there's a bit of a mix between Windows and Apple, but the mobile devices are certainly all Apple based. Jenna, thank you so much for your comment as well, saying love that. So good to have all info relating to CFE and Scottish education. Very much so. And I've worked with Kirsty for a number of years now, and I'm always really impressed with the fact that everything that she does always relates back to the national curriculum and the national picture. It's not just taking an iPad for the sake of an iPad. It's constantly let's look at pedagogy of play. Let's see how it fits in. It's not starting with the iPad first. That's almost the secondary means. It is, let's look at the curriculum. Let's look at the guidance that's there. Let's look at things like play is the way. Let's look at realizing the ambition. And how does an iPad fit into that? So that's always what I'm most impressed with Kirsty's work. So thank you for that comment, Jenna. Anyone else got anything else? Please pop them in. I'm going to ask you a couple of my own, just whilst I've got you here, Kirsty. First of all, I'm going to say, how would ELC settings or primary schools ensure that young learners get the most out of their screen time? I know that a lot of parents in particular can be very worried or concerned about overuse of screen time, particularly in the early years. So how do settings support that as best possible? And also, how can we support parents with this aspect too, both in the nursery setting and when they're at home too?
I think the main thing to focus on is what we've talked about in the fact that it's a tool. I mean, and I think as well, we can't deny that digital technology is here. And actually, it would be irresponsible of us to ignore digital technology because it's here, and whether we like it or not. So we need to emphasize that, and that it does represent, is everywhere around them. But we also need to reassure them that it is enhancing what they already do. It's not replacing it. And that we still do all the really meaningful stuff alongside the iPad tools as well. And I think the principles are really important as well to consider, that we are looking to support them, that we're not looking to use. I think a lot of parents think that we use iPads in nursery the same as we do at home, but we don't. I think they assume because and understandably, I do it with my own children. There'll be a lot of game playing and sitting on iPads rather than using it as a tool. But I think educating our parents about how we're using it is the way forward with that. Yeah.
I think one thing I always going to say with digital technology, regardless of whether it's early years, primary, secondary too, what they're doing in the classrooms or in the early year settings is they are content creators, not content consumers. So they are making videos. They are using it in various different ways to create content rather than just consuming video or gameplay that they're involved in there too. Another one for you, just from myself, is what feedback have pupils, staff and parents given you about 3 things? 1, your book. 2, the iPads kind of in general, and also 3, digital platforms. You mentioned Shobi tonight, which is used extensively throughout Borders. What feedback have pupils, parents and staff given you about those things?
Well, about the book, I've had a nice comment about the book from one practitioner. I had a call with her, and she was going to be talking to me on the call about how I could support them to use this document. And we started the call, and she said, "Oh, yeah, so I've had a look at the document, and I was wondering how you could help us, but I think actually, I don't think you need to. I think we've got it." Because I've just read through it. It makes perfect sense, and we're going to get started. So that's what it's all about. That's what it was written for. So that was delightful to hear that. In terms of the iPads, I've had a lot from practitioners about sometimes it's the moments that I get about making life easier. So things from AirDrop and how getting someone's name when you AirDrop rather than this code that we've had, or just little things that or saving time on printing if they've got to print, or there's just a huge number of things, and sometimes it won't even occur to me. I'll just pass it on and they say, "Oh, that's life changing." And because it will give them more time, because however they were doing it before took them so much more time, and we all need more time. It's so precious, so the time saving aspect has been wonderful, and actually platforms like Shobi, it's been an amazing time saver and just has enhanced what they already do. So we're doing learning journals digitally. We are keeping the book aspect in terms of for children's work if they want to do a drawing, or we keep some things on paper, but the observations and photos on Shobi. But you don't just get observations and photos like you did before. You also get videos, and you also get voice notes, and it gets sent to parents instantly. Communications made loads better, and I think it's just brings it all so much more to life, their experience in nursery, and just it improves that communication with parents. And and the parents love the Shobi as well. You've had a lot of feedback from that, and seeing what their children are doing in real time and seeing it in a video, and just having those extra moments and hearing their children's voice, it just brings warmth and smiles. So that's lovely to see.
It just enhances the overall experience in the early years, doesn't it? Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Yeah, that's
Brilliant.
what we're all about.
Yeah, right. It would be remiss of me not to do some plugs, given that we've come into the end of our session. So the first of those is that the whole Inspire Learning team, which covers early years, primary and secondary, have been really busy this Christmas creating the 12 Days of Christmas resource. There are individual resources for early years to primary 3, primary 4 to 7, secondary schools and enhanced provisions. And if you scan that QR code that's on screen just now, or visit tinyurl.com/InspireXmas 2023, you can see this lovely resource like so. So if I go into the early years one just now, we can see that there's 12 days worth of learning activities there. There are things like using markup to create a snowman, use the photo app to make a snowman picture. If you look at tomorrow's one, day 3 is using Sketchy Schools to create a symmetrical snowflake, using a word-based symmetrical snowflake template. And if you look at the last one as well, you can see that we've got drawing a symmetrical bauble using the Sketchy Schools app as well. So 12 different activities. Some of them are drawing, some of them are other forms of creativity, but very short activities that are there. There's also, Kirsty, a couple of bonus activities, which I think you did, which is form for songboards as well as GarageBand for early years. So if you want a wee copy of the 12 Days of Christmas resources, scan that QR code or visit tinyurl.com/InspireXmas 2023, or just join our Twitter account on Inspire SBC, because we're posting there daily all about it. Next thing is we've just recently launched our first Inspire newsletter. It's called Inspire Insights. So again, if you scan that QR code that's on screen now, you can sign up for our monthly mail out, our newsletter, and that will share lots of information about what's happening in schools and nursery settings, any webinars like tonight that we've got coming up as well. So you can scan that QR code, subscribe to our monthly newsletter, and find out more information about the Inspire Learning project. And last but not least, I've mentioned it a couple of times tonight, if you are on X, formerly Twitter, then we are at Inspire SBC, and you can follow our work there. We post pretty much every day to share the things that are happening in our schools and our settings all over the borders, digital technology wise. So that is my plugs over. Kirsty, anything else to add?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for coming. It was great to have you here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Kirsty. It was a wonderful webinar tonight. If any of you really enjoyed tonight, then what you can do is you can share the link to this video that you're watching right now, because as soon as I press end stream on the platform that I'm using, it becomes a regular YouTube video, and anyone can watch that in any setting all over Scotland and all over the world as well. So feel free to share that if you want to. If you have any final comments to make, this is your last chance now to post them into the chat, because we are heading off to enjoy some Wednesday night in the cold. It's absolutely freezing down in the borders tonight. I think it's -3 when I came into the office just now. So I'm heading home to sit in front of the heater and watch some telly.
Warm up.
We went here from Gemma. Thank you. Great to see, and looking forward to sharing these with practitioners in Fife. Very good. So we've made it all the way up to Fife. Fife was actually where I did my NQT year over in Daresey Primary School. So it takes me back a few years to my days in Fife. And also Miss Dodd saying she's learned so much. Thank you for this. You're very, very welcome, Miss Dodd. And I also see that you followed us on Twitter. So thank you for doing that as well tonight. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, Kirsty, for your time. Wonderful presentation. It's iPad's Pedagogy of Play on Apple Books. Download it, share it. Let us know how you're getting on with it as well. Visit the Early Level portal, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.